All right, there we go, Brielle.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. I'm really good. I'm excited to talk to you today.
That's so awesome. Okay. We'll just wait another 30 seconds for some people to trickle in, and then we'll get started.
Awesome.
How was your day today?
It was a really great day. It's like beautiful and sunny and
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Yeah. Here too. It was a really nice day.
Yeah. How are things in Toronto now? Are things starting to open up or
Um, yeah, a little bit better. People are starting to go out, things are starting to open up. Not a whole lot to do still, but it's a good thing it's nice weather. You can always go outside.
yeah, going outside is huge.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we have some people. That's awesome. So I'm sure more people are going to trickle in. So why don't we get started? So welcome everyone to Real Talk. This is our, weekly offering that we usually do Mondays and Tuesdays, and we talk about mental health. Honest, open conversation. And I'm super happy because we have my very good friend Brielle here. So I'm gonna stop. Brielle, why don't you introduce yourself really quick?
Hi, everyone. I'm Brielle. I am a dancer. I'm a marketing strategist. I'm also a business coach. And I really work with people to help them align what they're really passionate about and their biggest values and bring that into their professional careers, bring that into their businesses, and bring that into their lives.
Amazing. I love that. There we go. And fun fact for everyone. So Brielle and I met from dancing. If you didn't know, I'm a salsa dancer too. So we met not too long ago, actually, in January or February,
I
right?
think, yeah, I think in February, yeah, end of February.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how we met, and I'm super excited. So Brielle, why don't we start off by you kind of explaining a little bit about your background, how you grew up, your mental health journey, and what that's been like for you.
Yeah, of course. Um, so I grew up in a pretty physically and emotionally abusive environment. And that was a big secret that I kept for like probably until my early 20s was when I started speaking more openly about it. And I actually only started to tell people really close to me, like some of my best friends from high school and actually like my family members a few years ago. So that's definitely something, growing up in middle school and high school, I kind of had these two totally separate worlds. So I had everything that was going on at home that was really hard and complicated and really felt like I needed to keep that hidden and like not let it affect the rest of my life. And then I had school. And so school was somewhere where I always did really well. I really like enjoyed my classes. I was like president of every club, like I organized everything. I had a really strong group of friends, and that was just really where I felt, safe and where I could express myself in a way that I felt like I wasn't able to do at home. Um, but I definitely felt like sort of like the need to be perfect. I think a lot of times
hmm
when we're in an environment where things are out of our control, especially like when you're a kid, you can't control so many things. Even as a teenager, there's so many things you can't do. And so I was really trying to control like everything else in my life, at school and be this perfect student and be this perfect friend and all of that. Um, and when I got to college, that's when I discovered dance and specifically salsa dancing. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I think I knew just from the moment I saw dancers. So in salsa, we go out social dancing. So basically, like instead of going out to a party, it is a party in some ways, but you're going out and everyone there is there to dance. And you just spend all night dancing with each other. It's so much fun.
Oh, I miss it so much.
Yeah, it's the hardest part about being, in our current reality. It's tough. But yeah, that's so beautiful. There's so much connection. There's so much energy exchange. There's so much expression. Dance is about expressing yourself without words. So I go to college and I fell in love with dance. And when I graduated, I was like, I really want to become a dancer in a way where I'm competing and performing and teaching. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted, but I was like, this is what I want to do.
hmm
So I started training and taking lessons became this huge way for me to heal, from this experience, as a child and then a young adult. Because I was performing, I think I learned so much around like my own insecurities and like own
Hmm.
limiting ideas that I had that I didn't even know I had at the time, right? Like, because when you perform or when you do anything creative, right, you're really like giving yourself, you're putting all of yourself out there. And so anything you're not dealing with, I think, really shows up. And the audience can sense that, you can feel that. There are dance performances like I can't even watch because I was just going through so much stuff that did have nothing to do with dance, right? It was like my
Wow.
part of my own personal journey that I can't watch today. But I did a lot of, so after college, I worked with a therapist for a really long time, and that was super helpful for me. That was the first time where I really told anyone, very specific stories around what it was like to grow up in this environment. And I think that was the first time I felt like I wasn't making it up, right? Like I really felt like there was someone else who could offer like, oh, like you're not crazy. Like these things happened, and they are a big deal, because I was always trying to make that like not into a big deal, and not let it sort of
Right.
affect me.
Like I can do this, it'll go away. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it'll just go away on its own, which is
Yeah.
not the way it works.
Unfortunately not. No, it's not that easy.
Not at all. Not at all. So yeah, exactly like that. So that was really helpful for me. And then when I started dancing, I've always worked with an amazing dance coach, who not only was helping me learn how to use my body and perform, but also, helped shed light on some of these other ideas, right, that were affecting my dance and really keeping me back, or, getting in the ways of my performances. And then on top of that, I also worked with like a leadership coach, and I've just done like a ton of personal development. Like I'm always reading books and podcasts, and
Mm-hmm.
um, through that experience, like in doing all this work, I also learned that I experienced pretty severe anxiety.
Hmm.
So
So how did
I,
you know?
yeah,
How did you know? What did that feel like for you?
yeah. So for me, when I get really anxious, it's sort of one, I tend to cry. Like I'll go into,
Mm.
like I'll feel like all this sadness sort of like coming up through my body, and I just like break down to the like sobs. That's the only way I can describe it. And I used to think that that was me just getting really sad about something. And the more awareness I've been able to bring into, anxiety and mental health and recognizing my emotions and like managing my emotions, the more I realize like, oh, that's my anxiety telling me that I don't feel safe in some way, right? Something is coming up for me that's making me
Mm-hmm.
feel afraid. Um,
And you feel it in your
and
body.
then I feel it in my body. Yeah, I feel it in
Yeah.
my body. I often just like cry. And then the other thing that happens is I just like can't turn my thoughts off, right? And so for me, doer. So it's like I have 1,000 ideas and I'm gonna go do them right now, and I'm gonna make plans. And I've really learned to slow myself down in those moments and been like, okay, like I'll make this list of ideas, but I'm gonna like sit on this until I've moved through this, so that I'm able to figure out if I actually want to do that, or if I actually think that's a good idea, or that's just my anxiety acting up in the moment.
Yeah, and actually, I think that that's really important because we're pretty similar that way. Like I'm a big doer too, or a fixer, or problem solver, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. And usually, if I have some kind of problem, like I'm really good at thinking my way out of it. But in those situations, like we're not going to talk a lot about my story today, but a lot of what I deal with is depression. And when I really feel like I'm in that depressive mood, I want to do all these things, but sometimes, like you said, you kind of have to put that on hold, kind of bring the bar down a little bit, which you might not like, which is kind of weird. Like I feel kind of weird doing that because I'm always used to doing so much, but you kind of have to be okay with that and be gentle, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you just can't, and that's okay.
Yeah. I love how you say like be gentle. I think we're so gentle with other people in our lives, and a lot of times we're not gentle with ourselves. yeah, being
That's
gentle
the
and giving
thing.
yourself space
Yeah,
is
so
really helpful.
you just talked about a lot there. I want to go back to dance for a second. So it sounds
Yeah.
like you were dancing a lot during this time, right? So did that help you? How did it help you? How did it feel to dance?
Yeah. I mean, yes, it helps. It helps so much. I think so. If dance is great for anxiety in general, because when you move your body in any way, you're getting that anxiety. You're like moving that energy, right? You're like moving that through your body physically. So it's really helpful. I think I love yoga. I have started running during this time because
Nice.
I can't quite dance in the same way. So just like moving in general, I think is really, really helpful for that. I think dance is really great because it is also creative, this element of expression. So, you know, there are so many environments where people, I think about even like going to parties or weddings. A lot of times people want to dance, right? But like we're scared to dance. Like we're scared, we're not okay, or like people are going to judge us, or we're going to judge ourselves, or whatever it is. So I think in that way, dance was really just modality of like helping you get outside of your comfort zone, doing something with your body.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something a lot of us can relate to, and if it's not dance, it's something else for sure. Um, yeah, that's really important. And so I remember talking to you before, and you had mentioned that some of the things you chose to do were kind of the untraditional things, but you knew you wanted to do them. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's super important.
Yeah. And leave a corporate job that had a clear path forward to start my own business, which in the beginning was very was going to be, or like how I was going to make money. Those were that, just people around me didn't really do. I think specifically like in my family, right? Like I don't come from a family where um, no one's a dancer, no one is an artist in terms of like making artists. Like there was no painting, there was nothing really. Definitely no one was making an income from creativity in some way. So I also went to an Ivy League school, and I feel like I had some stuff around there where a lot of people would say, when I was like, I really want to be a salsa dancer. A lot of people told me in those early years, like, don't you want to do something better with your Ivy League? Like, I knew that the people around me had like made sacrifices or made certain decisions so that I went to a private high school as well. And so I could go to a private and then go to Brown. And it was really hard to separate that feeling of like, guilt and like, I don't deserve to do this, or I should do something else. Or if I'm going to have an impact in the world, it has to look like, working for a nonprofit and like going abroad, and really rewriting all that for myself. So those are just non-traditional things that, if you had told 16-year-old me that I would be doing them, I don't think I would have believed you. Yeah.
You know what? I love the way you put it like that because that's definitely something I can relate to, right? And a lot of other people actually, like when you're faced with the decision, we're so used to asking ourselves, oh, like what would my family want? What would my parents want? What would so and so want? What would they think? But then it's
Yeah.
like one day it's like, oh, like, well, what do I want? Like, what's gonna make me happy, right? And I think like the way I've kind of learned to think about it is based on what brings me energy, right? Because like
Mm,
you kind of mentioned before, and it made me think of this. Like sometimes you don't know like the path you want to, or the destination, like where you want to end up, but you know kind of what you want to do, right? So for
Yeah.
me, it's like, well, I'm trying to make a decision. Is doing this going to energize me? Is it going to excite me? Is it going to, make me want to do it? Or is it just going to be like, oh, like I got to do this now, right? And it might be okay if for a little while, but then like it takes a toll on you, right? For sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I love that. Like, in terms of what like brings you joy, what brings you energy. Like, I think tapping into that, and I always suggest people like actually keep it in a journal, right? Like, go through your day at the end of the
Hmm.
day and actually write down like, okay, I did this, this, and this, and like when I was working on this project, I felt really how to talk to this specific coworker, or like I had this interaction at school. I was so words because then you're actually like have a marketing background, so like we're very data driven. So but when
Yeah.
you reflect like that, you're actually collecting data on yourself, and then you can go back
Hmm.
and analyze it, and you can say, okay, I felt energized doing these three activities. What do they have in common? They're very different, but there's some sort of common there yeah, underlying commonality that they have that you can use to then figure out what you want to do next, or figure out how to make a change so you can do more of what is
Hmm.
bringing you energy.
That's actually a really good tip. You know what? I'm gonna try that. I love that because it's so true, right? Like in the moment, we don't realize like, oh, I love this. I'm gonna do this, right? We just kind of
Yeah.
go about our day, and then, yeah, that sounds really effective to kind of look back and be like, like what did I enjoy doing? What kind of what gave me that drive, and what didn't,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I'll send you my energy tracker afterwards. It has like all these
Ooh.
reflection questions afterwards and like
That sounds
concepts of
good.
your day. Yeah, but it's so helpful. It really does make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And so you also mentioned that it was just recently that you kind of really figured out and started looking at your anxiety, right? And
Yeah,
I
pretty
think
much just in the last year.
oh, okay. And yeah, and the way you put it before, you said it beautifully, is you had to first become more aware of it, right? And I think for anything, even for myself, on things that I want to improve for my own personal development, a lot of my improvement was actually awareness, right? Because you can't
Mm-hmm.
begin to look at something, look at a situation before you're aware of it, before you realize, right?
So true.
So yeah, so okay, I see your comment. Yes, we will share the reflection questions. And if you have any questions for us, please just type it in the chat. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, awareness. So yeah, it's super important to be aware of it. So now that you've been aware of it, you've been working on it for a little while, like how has that come into play in your life now? I guess we can answer that question with how has COVID been for you?
Yeah.
And what effect has that had on you? Because I know when we met, you and Rui were preparing for a big competition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and you obviously couldn't do that, which I'm sure. And by the way, I saw the routine, everyone. Incredible. So I can't wait,
Thank
but
you.
I'm sure that
Thank
was disappointing, right?
For
So yeah,
sure.
what yeah. So how's COVID been for you?
Yeah. So it's been first it was really good actually, and then it was this is how I explain it to everyone. It was really good, then it was really bad, and now it's really good again. So, which
I
in
love that.
general I think is saying like I feel like if I were going to write um a, a book about like my life, really good, and then it was bad, and then it was really good, and then it was bad, and just like recognizing that everything is always gonna cycle through, kind of like the ocean coming in and out, like has actually helped a lot with my anxiety, right? Because in those moments when
Hmm.
it feels really good, it's like I used to want to hold on to them and not let them go, and I would get anxious about it. In those moments when it was really bad, I would be like, oh my god, it's never gonna be good again, and I would get really anxious about it. And so just sort of recognizing okay, it's gonna go in and out, and that's good and that's normal. Has helped me become less anxious or experience anxiety less often, less frequently. Um, so it's true. We met when I met you, and I was up in Toronto. We were working on this routine. I was supposed to speak at a bunch of conferences. I had a bunch of dance things lined up. We had just
Wow.
auditioned for this like awesome TV show that we thought was going to air. So it was like
Oh my
everything was,
gosh.
yeah, everything was super great and wonderful, and like, you know, dreams coming true. And then it all stopped. And I will say that I had a pretty stressful winter where I had sort of just like one thing on
Mm.
top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And at the beginning, I felt kind of grateful for a break, right? Or just sort of a moment to like reset, really figure out, okay, exactly what we're talking about. What are these things that I'm doing right now that are energizing me, and what are the ones that I go of that really are depleting me or not um, serving me. So that was the first 3 months. And then basically, I in New York in my apartment that I had just moved into right before COVID hit. And then alone for 3 months. And by that point, I was like, okay, I'm not doing well. And I think um, I do think I was experiencing like not just grief and sort of the loss of realizing I wasn't going to have dance in my life in the way that I had it for my entire adult life, right? At least things are going to continue to look. I went through like a period of grief with that. And I was also love my alone reflection time, really having a tough time by myself. So I ended up coming out to Seattle, which is where my sister and my dad are. And I've been out here summer, and now I'm doing very good again. But I really had to change my environment. So
Yeah, honestly, I totally get that. I think that's super relatable to a lot of people. And to be honest, the more I talk with you, the more I realize that we're actually really similar. And the same thing kind of happened to me. It was going really good, and then a few things happened, and I was like, oh, like not so good. And I remember just, staying at home, not really going out. I have a beautiful backyard with a pool, but like I was like, like I don't really want to do that. So I kind of did the same thing actually. I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, like I'm really not doing too good. Like let's go out of town, visit family. And we did, and honestly, just being outside, like getting out, like leaving the city for a little while, really helped. Like just a change, and like I think that's super important. And if you can't go out and like to out of town, even just going on a walk through the park, like some kind of change, really, I don't know, but it really helps. It resets you, right? So since you've been with your dad and your sister, sounds like you're doing a lot better. So when things come up for you now that make you,
it does, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
moves your
exactly,
energy so
exactly.
much. Um,
So hold on, we're lagging a bit. You can you hear me? Good? Hold on. No, I can't hear you. 1 second, everybody. Technical difficulty. She's coming back. Thank you all for joining tonight, by the way. You guys are all awesome. I'm having a great time. Hope you are. Just give her a second. She's coming back in. If anyone has any questions, for sure, type it in. Um, and if you feel like if you're feeling like you're getting a little worked up or you need a friend, please reach out, call kids help phone, talk to someone you trust, and make sure that you're in a safe space, okay? Just a little reminder. There we go. We're back. We're
Okay,
back. We're
we're
back.
back.
Okay. So, yeah. So that's awesome. You got a change of scenery. You're spending time with family now. When you feel like your anxiety is starting to creep up again, what kinds of things do you find are really good coping strategies for you right now?
The first thing I do, honestly, is breathe. It sounds so basic, but and so I really try to just stop whatever I'm doing. You hold at the bottom, so you're kind of like making a box, and that
Mm-hmm.
really helps to just like calm my nervous system down. Um, and then I do try and get outside. I find I'm very fortunate right now where like I can walk outside and there are like trees around me, so I'll just like go for a walk. I find it really helpful to write things out and like journal every morning with journaling and just like taking my time in the morning, you know, quiet morning, having time to myself before I interact with the world or like even interact with my dad. Just helps me stay more calmer and more grounded throughout the day. Um, and when I feel myself then experiencing anxiety, I really try to remind myself that I'm safe, right? Like I'm okay. Like, I will do like a short meditation where I really focus on grounding myself into the floor or like feeling my feet on the ground, just like anything that can help me get back into my body. Um, so moving of some kind. And I really like to do is just like put on music and dance and like whatever I'm feeling come and express because sometimes I can't express my feelings in words, right? I need to connect to my body to really get those out into the world. So all those things have been helping me a lot.
Nice. That's honestly, all those are really good strategies. I know I do a couple of those for sure. I try and journal in the morning. I try and take a few minutes to meditate. I try and spend at least half an hour away from my phone. I don't check it
Mm.
first thing in the morning because then like immediately you just feel like you're sucked into it and it's just a weird feeling. So yeah, those are all really important. So we answered that question, what do you do when you're having a bad day? But there's another question here that I want to touch on because it's really important. How can you know you have anxiety if you're not sure? So in other words, I guess, what does anxiety feel like for you?
Yeah. So I think the one thing that I have learned about anxiety is like it manifests very differently for every single person. So I
Mm-hmm.
used to hear of people say that they experience anxiety, and I was like, oh, I don't experience that. So I don't know if I can totally answer this question, but I can tell you what it feels like for me in different different moments and
Yeah,
what
for sure.
can trigger it in different situations.
Yeah.
I will also say that I think moments and relationships and situations in general, right, experiences that require the most vulnerability are the places for me that have tended to trigger feelings of anxiety. So the way I learned that I was having anxiety was actually I was dating someone, and I was like really into this new guy that I was dating, and I started feeling like just all of these feelings that I really couldn't describe. It was just sort of like felt maybe like I was anticipating the end of this relationship that had like
Mm-hmm.
just started, and kind of thinking, well, this thing is so good, when is it going to end? And that's how I used to experience anxiety, specifically when I was dating or like in romantic partnerships. I don't even really know why. I'm sure someone who knows more about really excited about this person. I feel good. I'm enjoying spending time with them, getting to know them, and then I would like kind of start anticipating the end.
Mm-hmm.
That it showed up for me a lot was in dance. Going back to when you perform in front of people, when you know, not even when you perform, but like when you get on video, right? Like when
Yeah,
you right, when you write something, when you create something, when you like give a big presentation at work, anything that puts yourself out of the world and says like, this is who I am, here I am, that requires, and so it can trigger like other feelings of anxiety. So when I would dance, oh my god, it was just like all of this feeling like, what if I'm not good enough, or what if my body like makes a mistake on stage, or like can't do this routine, or what if
right.
everyone in the audience like thinks that I don't deserve to be there? Like what if they're just like, who does she think she is for dancing? You know, kind of things that when I say out loud are like, they just
For
sound
sure.
silly, but like those are the things I felt in the moment, right? And so
Yeah.
that was, I think, my anxiety coming up for me, both in thoughts and then in my body.
Right. So yeah, no, exactly. And I think the part about the body is really important too. Like I know you mentioned you feel like just like a surge coming up and just and you start to sob and honestly, yeah, I get that. I think it's a little bit different for everyone, but for me, I tend to feel it in my stomach. I almost feel like I have a nervous stomach. Like I don't really want to eat. I feel like there's a pit, like a ball in my chest, like that's weighing down on me. And I feel like I'm on edge, like I'm really stressed or like I'm scared and like there's no real reason why. Um, so
Yeah.
that's how it kind of manifests in my body. So like and usually, you know, anxiety is something that happens over a period of time. So that's kind of how like I first know. Just a side note for everyone. If you want to know for sure, go speak to someone about it. Always a good option, right? Um, so yeah, we're almost done. I have a couple of things that I wanted to go through. The one thing I wanted to really talk about because I think it's super important before we end off. You had mentioned that it took a long time for you to kind of allow yourself to, or just to give yourself permission to achieve and do all the things that you want to do. How did you actually get to that point? Because I think that's super important.
Yeah. um, I mean, I did a lot of what I call inner work, like inner emotional work, like a combination of therapy and coaching and personal development workshops, and working with like energy layers and writing, like all of those things over like multiple years. I think the biggest thing for me was say that internal learning, right? And had a lot and did reach out to people I who could support me and start to explain to me what my anxiety was maybe feeling like for me in these
Mm-hmm.
moments, and just like help me understand these things that were happening to me, or like how I was interacting with the world. And for me,
Mm.
that's really helpful. Like, I'm
Yes,
always
of
asking,
course.
why is this happening? And I will say, I started doing some of the things that I was really, so one of the biggest,
Mm.
and the more I did them, the less scary it became. And the more I realized, like, I really love doing this. I light up when I do this thing, whether it was like, I started about dance, honestly, and I wrote for this site within the salsa and like social dance world, and then I started my own blog, and that was something I'd been thinking about probably since I was like 16.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, and I had like a lot of different blogs that never like saw the light of day, right? Because I was too afraid to put it out there, or I would never make time to work on it. So I think that's something
Mm-hmm.
too, like when you look at coming up for you and you are like, oh, I still want to do that, I still want to do that, often it's because there's something that you don't believe you actually deserve to do within that. Or at least
Mm.
that's what it was for me. So once I started, writing about dance, which was this thing that I really, really wanted, it became less scary. And actually, it was really cool when people reached out to me that I didn't even know. And they were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for writing that article. That's exactly how I felt in the moment. And recognize that experience, and that by sharing my experience and also like doing this thing that I loved could inspire and encourage other people to also go after their dream or do something that they really want to do that they weren't giving themselves permission to do, was a really big moment for me as well, and really helped me rewrite this idea I had around deserving and giving myself permission.
I love that, and I think you said it beautifully. I think that's super important. And yeah, for sure. Like you kind of summed it up, the whole importance of like sharing your story, that lived experience, which is why we're all here, which is what You Speak is all about, right? Connecting with people based on lived experience, because a lot of people can actually relate to that. And some people sometimes, you know of it, sometimes they'll tell you, but a lot of times they don't, but you still connect with people and impact on such a deep level.
Mm-hmm.
That's so amazing. So yeah, that's so awesome. So we're just about done, but before we leave, Brielle, I always like to ask people this question because I don't know, I just find it interesting. What's the best piece of advice you've ever heard that you would want to leave us with?
What you believe becomes your reality.
This is true. Yes, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. You know what? It's so simple, but it's so true. It's so true. And if you have to work on some of your beliefs, you have to work on them, right? Love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So thank you so much. Last chance, everyone. If you have a last minute question, go ahead and say it now. But honestly, Brielle, I'm so happy. I was so excited for this for so long, and you're such an incredible person. And I know I look up to you because I would love to be performing one day. You'll see sometime soon. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. I think a lot of people got a lot out of this. I know I did. Like I learned a lot for sure. And it was just so nice having you here. And oh, by the way,
Thank you.
before we end off, I just want to say thank you to all of you who came and watched, and thank you to our sponsors, TD, for making this all possible. And yes, Brielle, thank you. You're awesome.
Michael, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining and being here, showing up, sharing your time and energy with me, asking great questions. Um, Michael, I learned a lot about you. I'm so glad that we were able to connect, and thank you so much for having me. I
Absolutely.
love
All
what you
right.
guys are doing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And we love what you're doing too. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for engaging. We had a lot of fun. We hope you do. Join us again next week and have an amazing night. Thanks everyone. Bye, Brielle.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.